All right, good evening, Eagle Nation. This is Jeremy Mitchell coming to you. This is Thursday night. I know we've got a lot to cover tonight, and there may be something some of you all are waiting on. So we'll go ahead and promptly get started. I'm the Director of Member Experience here at Team Red, White, and Blue. I'm so thankful that you're joining us tonight as I chat with Mike Erwin, our Executive Director. Um, I see Jody's chat message to me here of like, do you want cameras on? We did try to make some settings so you wouldn't be on camera and maybe it would just focus in on Mike and I, but I'll make a little bit of a logistical note since our Zoom settings didn't hold that if you want to change your settings so it just goes on the speaker mode and if everybody else stays on mute, then you'll just see Mike and I, but I know it's also fun to see all your friends live all across Eagle Nation. So happy to do whatever. We're also recording this meeting right now. So that way our other friends who can't make it tonight can hear and listen in on the conversation. But we're pumped to join the Fireside chat tonight with Mike. So without further ado, I'm going to give a quick intro of Mike, our executive director, for those that may not actually know him. I know that some of you maybe have been here since day one of Eagle Nation's inception. So Mike's our executive director. He's coming to you live just outside of Pinehurst, Sandhills, North Carolina area. Obviously, he's still in the U.S. Army Reserve as a lieutenant colonel and a professor at West Point, in addition to being our executive director. He co-founded an education nonprofit, the Positivity Project, that teaches children character education in schools across the country. Founded a Catholic high school right in his backyard, Father Capodanno High School, which I know Mike just shared, was the anniversary of Father Capodanno's death just the other day. So it was a big moment there. Him, along with his large family, full of love, live on a farm in rural North Carolina as well. So many other things going on in his life in addition to just fire-breathing leadership to organizations all over the country all the time, and slinging wisdom and being kind of a what I would describe as just a do-gooder in general, right? So I'm happy to introduce him, but it's also funny and weird since so many of you know him so closely. You might not recognize him right now because of his facial appearance, because he's being peer pressured into looking cool, like some of the other Grut style folks out in our ecosphere. But glad to be together tonight. So we have a little bit of an agenda here, but we also want it to feel kind of what the fireside chat tone would be is maybe raw and open and have him kind of talk to all of us about, where he's thinking about where organization stands from, the past 15 years to just what's happened within the last year to where we think that we're going. So high level agenda is saying hello, talking about our impact, talking about some of the way we're talking about our programs these days and describing our community to others that may not know us. Exciting things like the Old Glory Ultra Relay and updates there. And then finally, monitoring the chat and answering any questions that you all have. So again, I'll just say thanks for taking the time out of your Thursday night. So Mike, thanks for joining us. What you got?
Great to be here. Yes, so thanks first of all for the intro, and good to see a lot of familiar faces and also a lot of folks that I don't know and I've not met. So whether I know you for 14 years or longer, or this is your first Team RDVB engagement like this, welcome to to Eagle Nation here tonight. Hopefully you don't hear the dogs barking too loud. I got two Great Pyrenees dogs. If y'all know those dogs, like they're like big white wolves, and they bark really loud. And I just heard them in the background. So they do not like anything from deer to foxes to snakes, on our property. So, really, again, great to be here and to just really have like this free flowing conversation with everyone. At the high level, I'll just say a couple of things before jumping into the dialogue, Jeremy. First of all, founded Team RDVB almost 15 years ago. So it was March 23rd of 2010. So we're coming up on the 15-year anniversary of when the paperwork dropped. But our big event really was the Twin Cities Marathon on October 3rd, 2010. So, you'll hear a lot coming up into next year as we get ready to celebrate our 15-year anniversary. For those of you out there who might be entrepreneurs or nonprofit founders, and or people like that in your life, you love people like that, that organization building is really hard work. And a lot of organizations don't make it to 3 years. They don't make it to 5 years. And so to make it to 15 years and to be gaining steam and gaining momentum like we are doing is really testament to our members. It's testament to our volunteer leaders. It's testament to the staff and the people who have, poured so much of their professional lives into Team Red, White, and Blue. And it's something that we're going to do a lot of celebrating, as we turn into 2025, and we get ready for that 15-year celebration. The second thing at the high level is just saying, how important our mission is in the world today, in this VUCA world. Some of you have probably heard that phrase from your time in the military, but volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous. There's a lot of uncertainty in the country and in the world. And, we're in this political election cycle where divisiveness just continues to climb. And when you think about how important it is to stay physically active and to stay connected to people and to remain optimistic and hopeful about the future, these are all things that we strive to do at Team Red, White, and Blue. And so while, yes, you can make the case that in 2011 and 12 and 13, when brigade after regiment after squadron was coming home from Iraq and Afghanistan and the deployments on the high seas, while we were very, very important back then, you can make the case that right now, as we stand in 2024, heading into 25, that we are more important, more relevant, more needed by the veteran community than ever. And again, all of us who take time out of their Thursday night, I know this is the opening night for NFL football, so I'm guessing there'll be a limited number of people here from Baltimore and Kansas City piping in. But 32 minutes till opening kickoff to the NFL season, you could be doing a lot of things. You could be, doom scrolling. You could be on social media. You could be doing a lot of things. But, for those of you who are live here tonight, you're here. Those of you who are watching this on tape delay, you're taking time out of your 168 hours in a week, and you're dedicating them to Team Red, White, and Blue and learning about what we're doing and your role, in the future of the organization. So again, just a huge thank you to everyone for being a part of this and taking time out of your night or whenever this is to join us.
Yeah, absolutely. To the tune of 117 and growing right now. Folks engaged and kind of want to listen in and hear tonight. So, I guess, do you have any highlights from this year? If you look back a year, we're into September now. We're getting ready to do the September 11th monthly mission coming up with the stair climb. We'll have the flagship happening right there, in your backyard in the Fayetteville area. There's another one happening in North Carolina. I know that you're going to. We'll have some people at the New York City event, which I'm excited to be there and be with our New York friends, and then chapter events all over the country. So, but are there some highlights from this year, reversing back to last year's 9/11 that stick out to you, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, so first of all, I mean, like the great thing about, since we all have different priorities and different preferences and things that we like, but for me personally, one of the real highlights this year was kicking off the Old Glory Relay. I see Amanda, Medaya, like some other people from Philadelphia, right? We kicked off the Old Glory Relay, at Citizens Bank Park. That was pretty surreal, to be able to do that. I think that for me, a lot of Team Red, White, and Blue, because of the season of life that I'm in, has become about the commitment to the organization and this idea that we talk about a lot, about the BFG, the big fitness goal. So I tackled Jeremy my BFG in December on my birthday. So I like to do it on December 21st, the shortest day of the year, which is my birthday, and I did a 5K row, and I got off the rower and I did a 5K run, right? My goal was 44 minutes because I turned 44 years old, and so that was great. But, one of the things that I missed in the BFG pursuit in that is that it was a sort of like a unitary effort. It was just me doing it. And so really I'm looking forward to, and I know you talked about the past 12 months, but as I'm looking towards the next, down the barrel at the next couple of months, I have not run the JFK 50 miler in 11 years. So in 2013 is the last time I did that when I was young and dumb. Right. And now I'm a little bit older, and, I am really excited to give it a run here with you and a whole lot of our members. So if anyone here wants to join a couple of our board members and a lot of us on the staff, and you want to get really crazy, come to Boonesboro, Maryland on November 23rd. It's the Saturday before Thanksgiving. And you can come out and pace. You can run the whole thing. You can cheer people on. But I'm really looking forward to that. And right now, it's just the grind right now of every day putting in 6, 7, 8 miles a day to build the base, Jeremy. And like, to me, while that might not seem like a highlight, that's really like the role that Team Red, White, and Blue plays for me and my organization in my life right now. Is the positive peer pressure to keep putting in the work and to keep training so that I can accomplish that big fitness goal.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll just say it too, because we see that talked about amongst our Eagle leaders and folks that are in different kind of phases of life, because we have people who are veterans who've served in the Vietnam War who are our members who are highly active, to then, we've got active duty soldiers, sailors, airmen, marine, I almost lost it there. The Space Force,
Yeah.
the Guardians, right? So like we legit have Guardian members now. And so, we've got a wide swath of folks, civilian supporters. So, some of them are bread and butter chapter activities that they're just always at the Tuesday run, or they're always at the coffee meeting or the trivia night, or the monthly mission, right? So people are engaging in lots of different ways, but I think, I'm going to use that to like pivot a little bit, because then we wanted to talk a little bit about programs and it's embedded. And you mentioned the future, and thinking particularly about what we've almost dubbed as the digital garrison, to describe kind of the app and that landing place, and kind of that middle space when you can't be together with your sisters and brothers that wear the eagle. And so, how we interact in that way. And
Yeah.
so I don't, you want to riff on that a little bit, some of the
Yeah, I
change
do.
digital garrison, please, and maybe even where you see that going in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me wind the tape back to 2010 and 11 when we first started. Facebook groups made the creation of Team Red, White, and Blue possible. It was a platform that didn't cost us any money because we didn't have any money, right? We were so new. And at the same time, back then, the algorithm was very different, and you were able to get a ton of reach and a ton of engagement on Facebook, right? And over time, especially during COVID, right, that, the world went digital, everything went online, and the monetization, of social media platforms skyrocketed. And what that means is that the average person doesn't see, a lot of the posts. At the same time, we don't see the data. We don't own Meta, right? We don't own Facebook. And so we have very limited metrics about what we can see. And so starting really, Dan Brosik's on this. I know he's our technology director. He probably recalls back in 2014 or 15 when I said, "Hey, like, can we work on an app one day?" And like, obviously, I had no idea what I was talking about. I had no idea about how complicated it was, how much money it costs, how just robust the amount of work is that goes into that. That's a long-winded way, Jeremy, of saying that, like, starting really in 2019 in earnest in 2020, we started pouring a lot of time, energy, leadership, horsepower, money into creating our own technology platform. If this organization wants to be around for 100 years or more, right? If we want to be like the Legion of the VFW and be around for the veteran community in perpetuity, then we need to make investments accordingly to ensure that not only do we have a bigger impact on the user experience for veterans, but also so that we can better serve veterans by knowing what they like. And again, we never really have had the ability to do that, via Facebook and what I always call big tech social media platforms. And so those are all fine, but ultimately why we're leaning in so heavily into the digital garrison. And I would urge everyone here, everyone watching, if you have not if you have not downloaded the updated version of the app, I mean, Dan Brasik, Amanda Rondon from our team, they have been working really hard with our partners to accelerate the quality of the user experience in there. And we know it's still not as smooth as LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. That's okay. But it keeps getting a lot better every time we have a new rollout and a new iteration. And that digital garrison, as we described, right, in our program definitions, it is the hub of where the organization in the future is going to be focused. And I get it. I understand it, that we don't want more apps. We don't need more technology. But our big push is that we need to be able to shape and influence and inspire and offer our members a platform to inspire other people that they're going to actually see. So this is not only a big part of where we're at right now, it's going to become an even bigger part of where we're headed into the future. Some of our board members, as you know, from the board meeting a couple of weeks ago, who were skeptical, who were not big fans of the app 18 months ago, love it, right? And they love the direction that we're headed because, we are focusing on the user experience. Last thing I'll say on that, Jeremy, like this, I think so important about the digital garrison is, we started out, and for those of you who have been around for a long time, you may recall the messaging was, hey, please go in there and check into, to events, because it's the way that we can prove to our funders that we're working, that we're impacting veterans' lives. And that is definitely not the message now. The message now is we don't want our members to have to go into Facebook, a place that, especially in a political year, is often very divisive, to be able to see what's going on in Eagle Nation. We want you to be able to pull open that Team RWB app, and every single time you pull that app open, you see nothing but veterans, veteran supporters, health and wellness, inspiration. That you open that thing up and you're inspired to go do a workout. You're not sucked in by dopamine, to doom scroll. The opposite, like an eagle that soars in and gets its fish and takes off out of there. You come into the app, you get some inspiration, and then you go about your day, right? And this is a big part of the organization moving forward, and we're really urging people, to be able to get in there. We know the hesitations, we know the limitations of the app. We're going to continue to work at that, so we're all about the feedback, to continue helping it get better. But I cannot say enough about how important that program is to the future of the organization, because even if you're the most dedicated chapter, you're hosting an event 7 days a week, like a majority of our members can't get to those in-person events, nearly as much as they'd like due to life, right? And so engaging and connecting, right, via that digital garrison is really, really important to their health and well-being.
Yeah, and I'll just double tap at the end there saying, like, from my vantage point, right? Go in there, swoop in there, like you said, and get your inspiration, but don't just come in there and leave without giving some too, right? So I even prefer a 2-to-1 equation there at least, right? So go in there, throw the hearts, throw the comments. It really matters to someone's life and day. And that, like, positivity can just be spiraled all over the place. So I always remember you talking about some of those first days of RWB and wounded veterans showing up and folks thinking that they're the charity case, and them essentially being like, I'm here to help.
Yeah.
Right. So, like, no matter what shape, condition, et cetera, you're in, you can cheer on a buddy, and you don't even have to know them. And ideally maybe you start with that digital relationship that leads to them coming out to a chapter event if there's one nearby you, or making your own, because you can even do that. You can create your own event in the app and others will see it and they can join. So
Right.
thanks for riffing on that. We hit a little bit already on something we want to talk about, was this, like, upstream approach. But do you want to maybe, like, hit on that a little bit more, and maybe even some of the proactive things that we're doing maybe in the veteran space towards health and wellness from your vantage
For
point?
sure. So a couple of things. As a quick reminder, we founded the organization in 2010 with the idea of helping veterans to transition from active duty guard reserves into civilian life. The big word for a lot of you who've been around and were focused on the veteran community, or maybe were a part of RWB back then, was reintegration. We need to help veterans to reintegrate into civilian life. And as the large scale deployments slowed down, as there became a bigger focus on helping veterans to transition in a successful and healthy way, our mission of helping veterans to reintegrate became less relevant. That's the fact, right? That really started happening, I would say, in 2018, 2019. And then in COVID, like, we saw this big focus on health and wellness. We knew, you could see it right from the get-go, right? That, like, people who were, healthier and were more physically active were able to better fight off, not just COVID, but any other sorts of viruses or bugs that they would get. And so, like, before all that happened, though, in January of 2020, we started to pivot and to shift our focus to being a health and wellness community. And so that's a really important thing to know, Jeremy, like, with it, that a lot of people, a lot of veterans organizations exist, a lot of nonprofits, they exist to serve the needs downstream, right? When people have already fallen, when they're already in a dark place, when they're already struggling in a big way. Our big hope at Team RWB for everyone here, but then also for all the other people, the ripple effect that you touch, that that you interact with, who look to you, is to be that upstream approach. And we take great pride in that. And I'll be honest with everyone on that, like, this makes it harder for us to fundraise, right? Because it's not easy to fundraise when you're talking about what you prevented, because people are like, well, how do you know, right? People can see clearly when you help somebody who, right, has already been injured or is already sick or already suffering in some sort of way. And so for us, though, we are committed since day one. We remain committed to being an upstream approach organization. In terms of the health and wellness focus, beyond us continuing to increase the program, you see this in the digital garrison. When you look at it, you see the content coming out from Lonnie and Jeremy, the member experience team and the Marcom team. Like, it's really awesome to see. But you'll also see we've done some things We partnered with Sword Health. We got them to give 75 veterans who are experiencing chronic pain an AI-powered system that allowed them to better work through it and essentially sort of gain agency over their physical therapy experience, and a lot of them experience improvements in their health. We've got some. This is just the beginning of this. A lot more to follow for everyone here. You'll be seeing this more in the coming weeks, maybe a month from now. We did a study where we partnered with Inside Tracker and Google Fitbit, and we tracked 50. I believe it ended up being 52 veterans who went through 6 months of our programming, and then we looked at their enriched life scale scores. We looked at their self-report about their physical health and their mental health, but we also drew their blood in February and in August. And we've seen significant improvements in the biomarkers of veterans' blood on top of the self-report about that being involved in Team Red, White, and Blue has made them mentally and physically healthier. For those of you who have taken the Enriched Life Scale, we're talking about an 18% improvement in their total ELS score, right? So this is just confirming what we've known, for a long time now, that being involved in Team Red, White, and Blue is going to make you healthier, but it's also going to make you happier. And that has all kinds of ripple effects in your personal life, in your professional life. For just you personally, when you're alone with yourself, you feel better about who you are, right? All those things are benefits, of Team RWB programming.
Yeah. Hey, do you want to riff? There was a question in the chat. I know. What is the ELS? So can you explain the life scale and maybe the short form that folks can take right in the app, right on their profile?
Totally. So I was going to say, that's it. Like we spent, some time and effort and money doing this, making it more user friendly. You can go into the app, you can take the Enriched Life Scale. I know Dan and Amanda on the tech team are sharing out some of the results recently. We've had a significant increase in the number of members taking the ELS, but we worked with Syracuse University and the Institute for Veterans and Military Families in 2015, 16, and 17 to develop. The original one was 40 questions. We were able to shorten it down to 18. So there's 18 questions on a Likert scale. I think it's 1 to 5, where you either strongly disagree or you strongly agree. And it will break down things like your relationship, where is your relationship health, your physical health, your mental health, your sense of belonging, and those things given back to you in a numeric score. And so you can go in and take this thing every day if you want. I'm not recommending that, but I do think it's great to take it every couple of months, every 2 to 3 months, if you want to just sort of, it's kind of the equivalent of taking your pulse on your heart rate. You go in there and you answer these questions and you get some objective feedback about how you're doing, right? And you might be going through something hard, or you might be like just got a promotion, things are going great. Like there's different things in life that can cause it. And Team Red, White, and Blue, through this instrument, through these 18 questions, we give you this free access to be able to sort of take your pulse on where you're at. And so, yeah, again, you can go right into your app and you can pull it right up there, to be able to take the ELS.
I mean, I've also heard you in other forums describe some of the work that we do, right, as being like brushing your teeth and flossing every day, right? So it's one metric point for us to measure our overall health, right? And another is those relationships and actions you're engaging in. I think the only other thing is we kind of plug through the programs, and I don't even know if I'll share slides because I don't want to distract from that, but it is on our website now. Our marketing and communication team, along with our tech folks and other partners, have made some updates and I think made it more user friendly. And these program buckets that we're using to talk about what we do are on there, folks. So please go check it out. But the other one is the robust activity groups. We understand there are all sorts of, fitness realms that people want to dabble in and say, I'm not a runner anymore, but I'll ruck, or my knees just aren't having it. And I like to be on the bike and be with folks that are out doing epic things. And then even opportunities like the Outdoor Adventures group that actually go on real expeditions that you can apply for and get selected to go on in some wonderful, awesome, beautiful places. So please, again, if you haven't been in there, check it out. I'll urge that. And then the next bucket is ground ops and kind of our bread and butter chapter work and in-person engagement, to include Eagle Expeditions and monthly missions. So anything you want to say about kind of like the value of in-person engagement in a 2024 world?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and before I do that, ironically, let me just talk about the digital thing real quick, just to show people here, right? So you can go right here to your profile and you can see it says bio and feed, fitness, and then health, right? So I'm out myself right there. I'm an 88 on the ELS, so pretty good, but I've been better. But you can go there and that's where you take it, right? And then at the bottom, you just scroll down and you just say, take the ELS assessment, right? And then it'll give you, again, the breakdown of your genuine relationships, your mental health, your physical health, your sense of purpose, right? So again, a great opportunity to do that. So speaking of that, we know, Jeremy, and you know this from, the work that you did in education, the Positivity Project. We know from the research of positive psychology that the number one predictor and driver of life satisfaction is the quality of our relationships with other people, our family, our friends, our teammates, our coworkers, our roommates, the people that we do life with. And as we all know, we're all human, and everyone's complicated, and everyone's got some stuff they're dealing with, and everyone's got some things in their background that make them sometimes great to be around and sometimes not. Like, we're all there. And so this idea of engaging with people in person is, I think, really important, though, because what we see from the research, even people who are the most introverted and who really don't thrive on the big group settings, getting out and engaging in the group setting still matters and is still important. Now, it's going to look different, and people are going to prefer to engage in different ways. But I do think it's really important as you look at the world around us right now and this big push towards digital. We want, in our instance, the digital things like this, where we come together remotely or virtually or participate in the app. We want that to be a part of like the daily battle rhythms for people's lives when they engage in the digital garrison. But ultimately, I view like the in-person, it's kind of like the special operations side of things, right? Where it's like, you might not do those as much, but when you do, they're going to fill you up, because it's really good to go out there and to tackle your BFG with other people. It's really good to go out there and participate in a monthly mission with somebody else or go for a run with somebody else. That stuff matters. And so I just would sort of urge everyone, as you take stock of where you spend your time and where you engage with the organization, if you haven't found an in-person event recently, maybe give it another chance, give it a shot, go in there and look to see if there's more in-person opportunities that you can dial into, here and there, because we know that they also matter to your health and well-being, along with your habits that you engage in on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, and I'll just from my vantage point then emphasize with that, because I know we have a lot of Eagle leaders on the call too, and some of you may not even be aware of what that means, but it's essentially someone who's kind of raised their hand and said, I'm happy to volunteer in some capacity in this organization, and anyone can do that. We want you to understand our mission and what we believe together collectively. But if you're an Eagle leader, keep doing what you're doing and welcoming people and encouraging them to come out, because sometimes someone just needs that nudge and that push to come out. And then when they're there, don't just stand around with the click, right? Like, talk to people, mix it up, ask them who they are, where they're from, get them involved in that way. And whether it's monthly missions or, like I said, some of those bread and butter tasks, it's important. So let's go to the next bucket, maybe Eagle Fit, right? We've kind of spun this up recently under the leadership of Lonnie Faulkner, who helps with our activity groups from that digital sphere. And we've started putting challenges in there. We have done challenges since COVID times, but a little bit of a brand here, and then that mixed with performance education. Anything you want to mention about that?
Yeah, no, just in general, that like this to me is all about habits and healthy habit formation. How do we engage with people, on training and on the virtual side, from our challenges, some of the things like the plank, challenge, and the stretch, I think plank and stretch challenge, and, the grip strength challenge, and some of these things. We want to talk increasingly to all of our members about the concept of holistic health. And that's really important for us because, we know that there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of information coming at people, right? And everyone's has to decipher, well, who do I trust? Who do I trust to listen to, about what's important, because there's just such competing narratives out there where a lot of times people don't know who they can count on. And so this is a big part of us, like through our Eagle Fit program, we want to become a trusted source and expert on health and wellness, on things related to health and wellness, and again, a lot of the way we're delivering that is through the digital garrison, but also through emails and through some of our challenges. And so it's this multi-tiered approach, Jeremy, that we're trying to take where, we are really working hard, to engage people, knowing that like you might not get them every time, right? People are gonna be busy. They might miss emails. They might miss notifications. They might not get into the app, for a couple of days. And that's okay. But we want to keep the drumbeat going so that we can hit people up, and catch them when they're ready for it or when they have the time and the focus.
Yeah, well, I want to transition to the Eagle Alliance bucket with partnerships, and I think it's a good segue because we've got our deputy director JJ Pinner and some of my team Cindy and Jimmy down in Northwest Arkansas right now at a place called the University of Health and Performance, where we've had one sole team RWB cohort already. This is the second. We've solicited from applications all over the country, Eagle leaders alike, and members that say they want to be an Eagle leader got selected to go do this, and they're getting some training on the way to having even a CPT certification to be a personal trainer. And so, our own Eagle leaders, we are a health and wellness community now, especially. So the social never went away. We still are enriching veterans' lives. But the research wholehandedly says if you move your body, and especially with others, you're going to be better off. And so that's our our hypothesis and thesis, right, is that the ELS score rises because of that and all sorts of other metrics. So, we have partners with Sword Health, like you'd mentioned. Onward Ops, for our new friends who are transitioning out of the military, is a new partner that's strong in a lot of DoD sites and campuses. Camp Southern Ground down in North Georgia, that is partnered with the Boulder Crest Foundation and is a path site. But I wouldn't be remiss to just mention, and I'll let you riff on it a little bit too. And we actually have an Eagle Leader Town Hall coming up where we'll hit it more. But the check-in program and the Veteran Wellness Alliance through the George Bush Institute, considering especially that September is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we talked about ELS scores, and I know I even saw a comment from a friend in there who's like, mine's pretty low. I got room for growth, right? And like you'd mentioned, we all do. And then circling back to those in-person relationships and how important it is in an age of isolation. So anything you want to say about our partnerships, especially with the check-in program, and again, just encouraging folks if they need support. Hey, the Veteran Suicide Crisis Line, I cannot not mention that anytime that we bring up that topic, but our partnership there.
Yeah, totally. So you covered a lot there, right? So there's a lot of
Yes.
things in the Eagle Alliance. So this is why it's important. Everyone here, unless like you're in this stuff every day, you're gonna need to see those things. So we'll make sure to follow up with like some of these, breakdowns. So just I'll speak to a couple of them. One, we are continuing to increase our focus on partnerships. Like we know that there's a lot of great other organizations out there doing great things. So for check-in, this has been our partnership with the George W. Bush Center, now the Warrior Wellness Alliance. This is a really big deal because we are the number one of all the veteran nonprofit organizations in the country by a long shot. Team Red, White, and Blue is referring the most veterans to there for mental health support, and it's top notch, right? You're getting mental health support from some of the best providers and clinicians in the world. So that's huge. So if you know somebody, right, or you yourself find yourself in that boat where you're really struggling, that's a great place to go, right? We partnered there. Already mentioned earlier about Sword Health and what we did there, but the other big one here is UHP. And in our last program, obviously talking about like how we're going to get more veterans to the University of Health and Performance. I know I see some people like Pippi and a few others that are here. I know who've been to UHP training. I know JJ Pinter, Courtney. There's a lot of people who are there right now. They are an emerging, very big partner of ours at Team Red, White, and Blue. Jeremy, one of the things that we know, is that veterans, a lot increasingly who are coming to Team Red, White, and Blue, they want increased opportunities to go deeper on health and wellness. And we are not experts in the training and certification world, but UHP is, and they've got some absolutely top shelf instructors, certifications that can come out of there, right? And they have this vision to help veterans as they transition from active duty guard reserves to become leaders in the health and wellness industry. And that could be becoming a sleep coach or a CrossFit coach or, a yoga coach or like a certified personal trainer. There's all kinds of ways that you can go and do that. So look out for much more, on this in the future, but this is a big part to be able to get more volunteer leaders into the Eagle Nation sort of ecosystem so that they can find ways to serve and inspire other veterans, and also to be able to provide training and more education and knowledge about how to be healthier.
Yeah, and that's right. And I know that cohort live down there with JJ, Cindy, and Jimmy are getting the pitch to become Eagle leaders and take that experience and that knowledge that's been given to them to do that. And I think the other thing that is this transition to this Eagle Health and Wellness Scholarship Fund, which actually applications will start going out live in October. But beyond these scholarships to go to UHP, we're going to extend it to some other educational opportunities like a CrossFit Level 1, like those things that you mentioned. So you covered all that. So I think,
Yeah.
the next phase to move on here is the energy, the Old Glory Ultra Relay, and maybe I think you're known around this place as the crazy idea guy, right? Like the big vision guy. And I know Sully had talked about this with us too, and some of them were taking point to help watch this come to fruition, and we're starting to announce some of the runners. So maybe talk about this kind of crazy idea and why the change too, because you started out with some of that real talk authenticity is what we're hoping for here. And I know that
Yeah.
some folks change can be hard. And so yeah, tell us about the excitement and the drive behind this.
Yeah, for sure. So starting out by going back to the inaugural Old Glory Relay, where it went from the Golden Gate Bridge to Walter Reed Memorial Hospital. We actually called it the Old Glory Coast to Coast Relay in 2014. That was the first one. And then it sort of varied over the years. The longest going, I think, 4,600 miles, like from Seattle to Tampa. A lot of times it started finding its way onto bikes, but the initial one was only on ground. It was ran and walked. And it was, pretty wild. But actually, the initial dream, it came to me in a dream of the Old Glory Relay that we started a long time ago. The idea was actually to see if we could build a team of veterans who would be able to race the flag across the country, as fast as possible. And then we just realized, like, hey, no, like we have an opportunity to connect and to give a lot of our members a chance to be a part of this and carrying the flag. And I talked about earlier, one of my highlights of the year was kicking off with the Philadelphia chapter as the flag left, where the Phillies play baseball, and then it went, on its way to Chicago. But a couple of things I would say. Number one is, the Old Glory Relay has gotten lots of different routes. And while we definitely have seen, the excitement sort of like, ebb and flow for the Old Glory Relay, depending on, hey, is the flag coming to your place on a Tuesday or is it like a Saturday, right? There's a lot of these variables. That was one thing that really kind of kicked off the consideration of what should we do. But honestly, the bigger one was for them, and I'm guessing most people here are tracking Navy officer Paul Johnson and his transcontinental run of this year that he did starting on March 1st and finishing in late April. He ran 3,000 miles from the Santa Monica Boardwalk in California, finishing in Times Square in New York City. There had to be about 300 to 400 people running down the guts of Manhattan, to finish that, relay with him on like, I think it was like Sunday, like April 27th or something. It was unbelievable. And we saw the energy. Not only did he bring in lots of new members of Team Red, White, and Blue, he also brought in and was able to fundraise. He brought in nearly $600,000, from this. But he brought in a lot of energy and inspiration. And people found themselves tuning in every day to see what's going on. Where is Paul? How's he doing? I went out there to Effingham, Illinois. I never would have been to Effingham, Illinois, probably my entire life. But I went there and I ran, 11 miles with Paul, and it was incredible. It was incredible. And so we looked at, like, could we do this, but not make it about one person, but make it about 12 veterans, 12 men and women, right, who've worn the uniform, and can they come together and work around the flag, around the clock to move the flag 3,000 miles in 15 or 16 days, right? And so that's what we're doing. It's kicking off in San Diego on the USS Midway. I'm not going to tip all the everything just yet, but we are in comms with the Navy SEAL community to kick this thing off in a pretty epic way. And it's going to finish, right now in the nation's capital, and so it's really exciting to think about what this is going to be. We're really hoping that not only do we activate our existing Eagle Nation people like here who are on like this Zoom right now and watching this, but also lots of new veterans. Because, ladies and gentlemen, let's not forget, there's 18 million veterans in America, and about 220,000 of them have signed up to join Team Red, White, and Blue over the years. But we've got a lot more to reach, and we know from the research that veterans are looking for what Team Red, White, and Blue does, and a lot of them still don't know who we are. The market research shows that only about 17% of veterans know who Team Red, White, and Blue is, right? We've been around for 14 years, and we have less than 1 out of 5 veterans know who we are, right? So this is an effort to try to really gain a lot of attention and focus and eyeballs on this amazing team of veterans who are going to work together. I'm hoping it doesn't get too real world like, you know, if y'all remember that show, The Real World from MTV way back in the day when everyone's friends for a couple of days and then they start getting on each other's nerves. Everyone's gonna have to live together and move across the country together. They're gonna be stinky and tired and calorie deprived and all that. But we're really, really excited for what they're going to do and how they're going to inspire the entire veteran community during Military Appreciation Month in the month of May, finishing on Armed Forces Day in the nation's capital, starting in Navy Town out in San Diego. It's going to be unbelievable.
Yeah, they're gonna get another taste of that veteran experience, right? Forced to do hard things with a bunch of people you might not know that well, right? So original real world is Fort whatever or naval base whatever, Air Force base whatever, right? So it's exciting. It's exciting to watch. And like you said, you know, if you think about this just in sheer like strategy terms, the number of veterans that we've reached, it is minuscule. And yet I'll also make the play that like the beautiful thing about this place is just the grassroots of it, you know, that existed from the beginning and still churns even as we professionalize and make things better every day. And I know that that can sometimes even rub our longtime friends wrong because they, you know, they might be feeling, oh, you know, I opine for the old days. You know, you started us talking about, you know, 15 years ago, right? And nostalgia does, you know, cover
Yeah.
over a lot of the pain from the past, right? Of like I saw it in the chat of like, oh yeah, if you didn't take a picture, it didn't happen. And yeah, you know, there's people on the ground hustling every day to make this thing go, you know, especially our volunteers, our Eagle leaders. And so I'll just use them, you know, the moment to thank them publicly. And I know you express that all the time. Because we're gonna lean on you for involvement in Ogre too. And we, you know, Ogre, I don't even know if we could say it that way, but OGUR, the Ultra Relay, right? So state coordinators and chapter captains are going to be involved in that process as we lead up to it because you know this is something new and that is exciting, but with that excitement and building an airplane while it flies has a whole lot of anxiousness and a little bit of chaos involved with it, but that's the fun in it too, and I think that that's part of that energy of you
Yeah,
know.
and I'll just jump in, Jeremy, and say, like, you know,
Go
just
ahead.
echoing what you said. It's a really important point. You know, in the early days, it was run and gun. It was run and gun. You know, we had like a staff of initially none, right? And then our first, you know, staff member got hired in 2013. You know, and then we started to grow and we started to, bring in more revenue, and then funders started to expect things of us. You know, and that's kind of the way the the nonprofit space works. Is that if you're going to get foundations or corporate philanthropy or whoever to be able to get behind you, you do have to professionalize. And especially if you want to be here for 100 years. Like that's, I keep going back to that, but that is the thing. Like the veteran community needs what we do so badly that we need to, and I as the founder and as the executive director, but surely all of us as leaders, as members, as volunteer leaders, as paid staff, we all should feel that pressure that this is not really about us. This is about future generations. We don't know what war is in the future, right? Like we just know in general, we all would love there, to be peace and to be no war. But the reality is, like, that's never really happened in the history of the world where things were peaceful for too long of a period of time. We know we're going to have future generations of warriors, and maybe they're some of your kids or some of your grandkids, right? That will be those men and women, right? But we need to be here for the long run, for the veteran community and what we represent. And so, at the same time, like we never want to have our members or have our Eagle leaders feeling like that they can't make things happen. We want that sort of sua sponte mentality. We want people to be like, hey, I got an idea, I want to make it happen. That is a big part of the culture and the ethos of Team Red, White, and Blue is where there's a will, there's a way. And ultimately, I know that it can be frustrating at times, especially for people who've sort of seen and participated in the organization in those days when it was the Wild West, kind of like being in Iraq in 2003, and then all of a sudden the IEDs got bigger and all of a sudden we needed to start building vehicles that were more mine resistant. As we got older as an organization, we've got to continue building processes and structures. We did go too far. I will certainly acknowledge that. At times we became too bureaucratic and we built too many procedures and SOPs, and we made it too complicated to be an Eagle leader. We want to make it fun. We want it to be something that you can roll your sleeves up and do and enrich your own life, but more importantly, impact other veterans and enrich their lives. And so that's a huge part of our focus as we continue to move into the future is how do we empower people who want to go change other people's lives to do just that?
Yeah, absolutely. I guess in that way, it's this idea of like, hey, this wide swath of members and members to be. There's even a good question from a newer Eagle in the chat and from her profile and even asked, how can younger people be involved? And
Mm-hmm.
I do hear this particularly because I'm in that phase of life. I have elementary, middle school age children my own self, and that's the phase of life I am in. And they're busy, but at the same time, I think, a lot of our people, and if you're not one of these people, you should be too, are here to give back. And I know the military, we've talked about this before, it has quite a recruiting problem right now,
Mm-hmm.
even with lower levels of those that are serving. And so, someone who's worked in youth programs and development, Mike, like, what do you think about that? How can younger people be involved in RWB, or is there a place for them? Is there a place for people's children even to be involved in this with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd start out by saying that, we know that people have got they're in different seasons of life, right? Whether you got kids or not, whether you got grandkids or not, like whether or not you are, you know, high school, you got someone like your next door neighbor who's interested. I've heard from numerous high school students in the past couple of years, hey, what can I do? I'm a 10th grader. What can I do? And so I think that like this is a really big thing, is the first place to start. I'll make a plug for it right now. The easiest place to start is, to go to the Team RDB store. Every single cent over the cost of the shirts is a donation to Team Red, White, and Blue. You can start by wearing the Eagle. And we used to have, and for those of you who may remember some of the early days, like we've had people who have brought the shirt, it's been on The Price is Right. It's been on, the White House lawn. It's been on, NASA, the International Space Station, right? But more importantly than all those places is it's out there on the streets. It's in the parks. It's in the gyms. And buying Eagle gear is a simple way that you can get a younger person to think about, our nation's veterans and what they've done for the country and how you can support them. So it's the lowest barrier to entry. It's the lowest hanging fruit of get the gear, get it to a young kid, get it to them and encourage them to know what it means. That this organization is about enriching veterans' lives so that when our service members take the uniform off, that they have an organization to call home that is there to help them and support them. Right. But absolutely coming out and being a part of events. Like I encourage people to bring like their children or their neighbors or, whoever it is, absolutely bring them out to the events, come out and do the workout, talk to them about the Mogadishu Mile and, why that is called the Mogadishu Mile, talk to them about 9/11, talk to them about the Battle of the Bulge and Veterans Day and the purple and what it means, like John Reyes is here, right? Who received the Purple Heart, right? Talk to them about that. These are all opportunities for us to engage our youth about the military history and the culture, and how the military has played a critical role in the history of the nation.
Well, I think that's a good transition to think about, even another question that came through in the chat, and I'll even field this, and I'll let you pile on if you want, Mike. But hey, Mike Young, give me a call, 810-423-4917. We'll get going on how to get your chapter going even better. I'll get you plugged with the right people. Searched you up in the app. I couldn't find you just on a quick search, but I'm juggling a bunch of text. So anybody else here, I'll put my phone number in the chat. Call me. I'm happy to extend it beyond this. Your veteran engagement managers, Keno Donahue, if you live in kind of the Northeast Central area. Courtney Bunn is all across the South, all the way up to Kentucky, is far west as Arizona, and then you've got Sal Salazar in Missouri covering the west side. He's getting ready to go wheels up to go hang out with our awesome California State Coordinator Jody Merkel, and I don't think he's getting in the water for Waves of Valor, is what I've heard, but it's going to be a fired up time. People on the West Coast, and they just live different. So leadership has to be personal, folks, and so I'm going to keep emphasizing that, right? Someone will come to your event if you talk to them and you engage them and you give that personal ask. If you want someone to come out, say hi to them and encourage them. And it may not be the first or second time. I think that's the toughest part about our crew, is that as a group, as a whole, veterans can be a little bit standoffish, right? But it's quite a barrier smasher when you know that that person's a veteran who cares about you too. And the other thing I know, and maybe riff on this, Mike, is just this idea that like veterans as a group, we're not victims, you know, we get to take ownership of kind of who we are and the journey that we live. So you want to share anything about that?
Yeah, this is the
You know,
big one. I
the idea
think
of being, yeah,
yeah, I mean, going back to, the big thing, like we all know, I mean, I would highlight a couple things. One, we all know that, life is hard and it hits us in different ways, in different times, in different seasons of life. Some of it, is self-inflicted, right? And a lot of it is not. A lot of it's just, it's part of life. And as you go through life, it's challenging. Um, I think that a big part of what we talk about, not just at Team Red, White, and Blue, but more in generally across the veteran community, right, is this idea of agency that we have. And if you've read the book by Jocko, right, you've heard before, extreme ownership. Like it's just the idea that like we have agency over a lot of our challenges, and not all of them. There's some of them that we don't deserve, and there's some of them where our hands are tied and there's not much we can do, right? But there's also a lot of agency that we have over some of our challenges and problems, Jeremy. And I think that this is a really important one for us to strive to hit a balance on. It's this idea of like holding ourselves and other people accountable, and at the same time having grace, knowing that people, you never really know what people are going through. But to the comment specifically, around like a victim mentality, like we're all prone to it, right? We're all prone to throwing a pity party for ourselves and feeling sorry for ourselves over whatever it might be. Good, that means you're human, right? I think a big part of the question here for me is, well, how can you recognize when you're going to that place and you feel that way, and then you work to stop it. If not like shut it down, but at least stop it or pause it, and say, okay, what can I do? What can I control in this moment? And this is for me, is a huge part of this is physical activity. Since I've relearned this as a runner now, as someone who didn't really run for about the past 7-8 years, I did rowing and I climbed the Jacob's ladder and I did, some other things, but I wasn't really doing very much running. It's given me time to really think and to process through these things. But sometimes the answer is like when I'm feeling like crap, when I'm not feeling my best or something happens, like whether it's I got, yelled at by my wife about something or my kids are setting me off, about something, just getting outside, putting on your shoes and going for a jog or going for a walk or going for a ruck. Just getting outside and moving your body is often the best next step that you can take. And I've learned that over and over and over again in my life. And I cannot overemphasize this to everyone here as we head into the next 2 months, heading into the heat of the election cycle. Please do not spend your time camped out, doom scrolling on social media, on big tech social media. Not only get into the Eagle app, but work hard to replace some of that time that you might spend, in front of that by going outside and getting physically active. Get outside, walk, hike, run, ruck. The ankle express is get out there and move. You'll be so much better off for it. And to me, like this is a huge thing I'm really holding my own feet to the fire on here as we get into the fall, is just getting outside and moving my body more and spending less time piped in, to big tech social media.
absolutely. And I'll circle all this back because we're getting close to the end about the digital garrison, right? And I found you, Michael Young. Actually, we're not too far off neighbors if you're the right guy in Tecumseh. So I know you'll get after it with Keem, but I'm gonna hop over there and come see you then. And I can see inside your comment about being, say, in a rural community, and it is. I think the digital garrison is even more paramount to being in a rural place because we got some veterans, like maybe old Dan Brostick on here that they're happy to be out in the mountains away from the herd, and it's a great place to connect. That's that positive place that you can share in the interim if you can't get together, but for say once a month if it's a signature monthly mission event, or even every 2 months. But just the idea that we're trying to provide those opportunities. I'll emphasize again that member generated event because I saw some comments in the thread over there too. If I like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or we need more socials. And it's like, one, you can definitely talk to your chapter leadership, and if you love something, hey, volunteer to lead it then, go do the thing you like and have people come out and do it with you. I'm looking at Amanda over here and she's doing pickleball, and my neighbor blew out her Achilles tendon playing pickleball. So you're not going to catch me going left to right. My body only goes forward these days, right? So we know what we need to do. But this idea of who can we do it with that holds us accountable, and if we can't do it with them in person, who can we share what we're doing? in the app with the intention of supporting someone else, encouraging them and motivating them. So, Mike, a few more minutes here. I guess it's camper's choice for you. If you got one more thing you want to say to Eagle Nation before we close it out, what's it going to be?
Yeah. So, you know me, a man of too many words. So I talk too much, but I'll just say that, the most important thing really on my end to express is gratitude, to everyone here. I said this at the beginning. I just want to re-emphasize that, this organization, this is all about our members. It's all about our volunteer leaders. We know that we're far from perfect. We make decisions. We don't always get them right. Just like in any organization out there. But I'll tell you, the staff we have right now is so ridiculously committed to the core values and to the mission of Team Red, White, and Blue that it's unbelievable. I had the opportunity to be able to do some leadership work with, and I see some other organizations, and I don't know a single organization, business or nonprofit, right now that has got a staff that is dialed in and is relentlessly committed to our mission, to our Northern Star of enriching veterans' lives, is the one we have right now. We are always open to feedback. We know that we can always get better. By the way, like that's part of an elite culture that we strive to build, is we can take feedback. We have thick skin. Of course, it always helps when you can deliver that, feedback in a, thoughtful and professional way. But even if you're having a bad day and it comes across a little rough, like Jeremy said, like we're going to pick up the phone and call you. I'll engage with you on social media if it's a comment or something there. You got people on this team who will jump in on a weekend or late at night or whatever, and they'll weigh in on that. And that's something we've worked really hard to build over the past 4 or 5 years on the staff, is getting the right people on the bus into the right seats, so that we can do our very best. That's what we owe you as people, as veterans and supporters who are dedicating some of your free time to our mission, to this collective mission that we're all on together. And, this is a true joy of life. I'll land the plane, Jeremy, by just saying that, like, this is what life's all about. It's not about binge watching Netflix or, doom scrolling and sort of living in this hyper virtual world, like, and focusing on ourselves. Like, we get a lot of promise telling us that that's what's going to make our lives better, is taking care of ourselves. And for sure, like, we need to look out for ourselves. But more importantly, one of the best ways that we look out for ourselves is by looking out for others. We learned that in the military. We've learned this over and over again from the research. And so by leaning into this organization, it's not just about improving your own life. It's about casting a legacy, right, in the areas where you live. It's changing veterans' lives for the rest of their lives. And that's not resume stuff. That's eulogy stuff. That's this kind of stuff that people think about and talk about when they think about you. When you go one day, and to me, that's what this is all about. This is about saving, enriching, changing, impacting people's lives. And I just, I don't know, how, I can say it any more clearly than that. Like, what an honor, for all of us to be members and be leaders, in this organization, to do that. And again, just huge gratitude to all of you for rolling up your sleeves, getting messy, and being a part of Eagle Nation. So I'm super thankful.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks, everybody. 8:59. Don't have anything more to say other than that. Be a good person. Be great.
All right, guys.
Later.
Thanks a lot.